these pilot screws do not come with these marks in them. I'm gonna have to try and zoom in on that. But if you can see, I took a Dremel and cut a line through the screw, and I cut a line through the actual piece of aluminum here. That way, when you are taking that out, you can be very careful to make sure that the amount of rotations it takes to take that screw out is the same number of rotations that you use to put it back in. In the position that it's in right now is probably very close to how you want it, as far as whatever condition your bike is in, your carburetors. So one of the things that you're going to want to pay attention to is your starting point. Don't touch the screw until you're ready, but make sure you take notes on, you'll take the screw, wiggle it just a little bit, and then you want to screw it all the way in, counting how many rotations you make. That way, when you're reassembling everything and you put that screw all the way in, you can count how many rotations back out to get it to where it's at. So from the starting position, wiggle it just a little bit to break it loose. Don't turn it much. But then you want to seat it completely, very gently. You do not want to push that in very hard. You know, just when it stops moving, let it stop moving. Don't try and force it. But you'll count how many rotations you make on the way in. And by cutting the slit in there with a Dremel, it allows you to also use a screwdriver, a flathead, to work on it, as opposed to having to order the tool from the manufacturer or an aftermarket entity to actually have the proper D-shaped orifice for that screw to fit into to take it out. Here are some images of these types of tools in question. I just want to reiterate one more time, because that is a very crucial thing as far as getting your carburetors how they need to be. From your starting point, you want to screw it all the way in, counting how many rotations and partial rotations. So I believe, I'm just going to put a number out there. This isn't actually anything to go by. So if I'm screwing down on it and I go 1 rotation, 2 rotation, 1/4 of a rotation, that is important, and you want to pay attention to that. That way, when you go to rebuild it, you'll put that screw all the way down, and then you'll count out that 2 1/4 rotation to bring it back up to a functional zone. So I just wanted to point that out real quick. We're going to go ahead and get into opening this up to the point of the slides. I'm trying to make sure that apparently once again I may have over tightened. I don't know how beneficial that is. Guys, I'm going to take a moment to just kind of promote the channel. If I could do it for you, I would. I promise I would. But I'd really like for you to hit that subscribe button. We are in the process of planning our 4th of July show, which, you know, if all things work out well, the police will not arrive. If they do, it'll make it a little bit more interesting. You have to, well, no, you might not have to remove that.
No, I don't think I have to. I just gotta get that.
But if our videos have been entertaining or helpful at all, I would really, really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. If you hit the little bell, it'll notify you whenever we put out a new video. I know that we've got some of our supporters are going to be providing some guns, and we've already got targets and whatnot, and we're going to be doing a comparison video on binary explosive targets. So that's going to be so much fun to shoot, and we hope that you're entertained and educated at the same time. So when you take this cap off, this spring, if it doesn't seem like it's in good condition, you're probably going to want to replace it. Typically, I haven't heard of anybody really having too much issue, but on the Magna forums, you do see that some people get in there and they decide they need to replace it. So if you look inside, when I slide this slide out, it's going to drop the whole rubber seal with it. So as that slide comes out, it comes out really easy. There's not too much of an issue. You want to make sure that your rubber right here is in good condition, creates a seal. If it's hard, you may want to replace it. That's going to probably help you from having to do this in the near future. As far as setting that aside, here's your needle. And looking at the camera, trying to figure out how I'm going to zoom in on that and have that be something that you guys can see well. But when you look down, you're pretty much gutted and cleared out at this point for the most part. When you begin to break open the carburetor as far as what we're going to have linked to, when you remove your pilot screw or your adjustment here, there's going to be small O-rings on there. You'll want to check how they're doing, make sure they're not overly hardened, and they're definitely not brittle. I would say brittle would be a little bit further past hardened. Honestly, as far as pulling your needle out, that's going to be about it. It's a really simple process on the slide and the needle. See if I can light this for you. When you do a whole breakdown on these, what I used on some carburetors, and I had heard many people talking about it, is using Coleman lantern fluid, and I'm not promoting Coleman any more than anybody else really. It's just that's what I happen to use. So when you're putting your needle back in, the real critical thing that you're going to watch out for is right inside here. You're going to want to make sure that your slide goes in just right. But make sure that needle doesn't get obstructed as you're putting it in. So you'll just slide it in gently. You know, want to make sure that this gasket reseats all the way around. And then, but as you can see, you can get to it without doing so. So, when I had the opportunity to work on this Valkyrie, which has 6 carburetors, this bike sat for between 5 and 6 years, and they had a ton of product in the gas tank with the gas. There you go. When I went to work on that Valkyrie, like I said, the Valkyrie sat for between 5 and 7 years. I'm not really positive, but it had a whole lot of fuel additive in the gas tank, and that is not something that you want to leave in a gas tank. A lot of the fuel additives and octane boosters and stuff like that, when they sit over time, they turn to a jelly, basically. And that is no bueno for all this love and productivity that you see sitting here before you. The thought process that, yeah, we want everything to perform better is we all want that. However, fuel additives, if you're going to store your bike, do not use fuel additives. I've heard of people seafoam in their motors for storage. That I can't really speak to. I've never done it personally. But I've heard people of just running seafoam in their motors for winterizing. Do you have any comment on that? Have you heard about people doing that?
Yeah, I've seen people do it. I don't use seafoam for storing anything. I use stable. I seafoam my motors. I seafoam just about everything. If I buy it, I run seafoam.
That's how he gets the gorgeous curls, seafoam.
Yep. It floats just like the ocean.
So we don't really have any experience with seafoam as far as a stabilizer for winterizing purposes. However, when I know that seafoam's good for clearing out all the junk. It's helpful in that sense. You may want to have a second set of spark plugs laying nearby, if you decide to do that. But as far as deep cleaning, when you decide to break down the carburetor banks, take everything apart, even if you don't do that and you just remove all the rubber hoses, all the gaskets, as many O-rings as possible. Like I said, I soaked a carburetor bank off the Valkyrie in lantern fluid, Coleman lantern fluid. And I poured some of that in the gas tank when I went to fire it up. And when I did this, I did not have hardly any issue at all. I put probably maybe an eighth, maybe a fourth, I'm not positive, of Coleman fluid in the gas tank with the gas, with new gas, and the bike fired up. It didn't run great until I actually removed the carburetors and cleaned them out. With this assembly and this project, it's rather cut and dry. It's taking the slides out. Perhaps that'll, when putting this spring back in, you're going to want to just be gentle with it, but you can guide it into place. and then just look inside and double check it. Make sure that everything's sliding in appropriately. No big deal. Everything's still here. I don't know. I've never really thought about having a blooper reel, but I just got shot by a carburetor. So, in sliding that in, like I said, not a hard task. Just align it with your fingers. You can feel it going in. And with the choke guard, the choke rail off of here, this will be a little bit easier getting this spring into place. But once you get that spring in there, that's about it. Hey guys, so that was the end of the video. Just wanted to kind of do a better job of explaining the removal of the slides and whatnot. Try and clean that up some so that everybody can benefit from that. Thank you for the comments and the request. If y'all will, just hit the subscribe button, throw down some likes, and like the video or Zeus will kill me. I don't know.